What's up, guys? In this episode of the Ask a Creator Economist podcast, we got three really cool questions from three really cool creators. The first one is a professional athlete who just got an offer from a company to be their social media manager. He's trying to figure out how to make it mutually beneficial for both him and the brand he's going to work with, and how he can kind of leverage that to just grow his personal brand as well. The second question comes from a really small Substack writer who isn't very confident in their abilities, but really wants to make it work. And they're trying to find ways to become a better writer and to just reach more audience. So we give them some tips there. And the third question comes from a copywriting freelancer slash agency owner. And she's looking for ways to scale and without burning out because she has time as her biggest obstacle and she doesn't know how she can really get more clients and scale with the fact that she's providing all the services and it costs her a lot of time. So I hope you do enjoy this episode. If you could skip around, there's going to be timestamps for you guys. If you do enjoy it, please give it a like, give it a share with a friend, and hope you guys enjoy it. So the first question, just to give you guys a little bit of context, is actually somebody that Jonas knows, and he is a awesome creator. So this is like the perfect question to land with us this week, especially considering Jonas is out back. So Jonas is going to tackle this one, and I'll go ahead and read it. So it comes from Marius Neufer, or if you want to pronounce it like a real German speaker, it's Marius Neufer. Okay, and here's his question. I had some first conversations about becoming the social media manager of a mountain bike brand. I think it could be a mutually beneficial situation. I have some existing reach already, 40,000 Instagram and 10,000 YouTube subs that hopefully increase the brand's exposure and the other way around. What would be a good way to leverage this setting? Me having a following and benefiting from this gig, and them benefiting from my followers, obviously without me tagging myself in every post. So, as I mentioned, Marius, his specific niche is mountain biking. So he's a mountain bike athlete and creator. And just to package that a little bit better before I pass it to you, Jonas, he basically just wants to enter an agreement with a brand, mountain bike brand. He wants to see how he can make it mutually beneficial, where he can leverage his reach for them and maybe vice versa. So Jonas, why don't you go ahead and take it away? Maybe give us a little more background on him, what you
Yeah, we
told me before we
briefly
started.
discussed this beforehand. So, as said, he started out by riding mountain bikes a bit more on the competitive side. Also, that was before basically creator was a thing. And then started doing also videos. He does a lot of shorts and reels on Instagram as well. He has like two signature moves, basically wheeling. He's very good at riding on one wheel, no matter if it's the front or the back one. And yeah, so he recently started having a conversation with one mountain bike brand. Obviously, all of them rely on social media for reach. And if you're looking for a new manager, then it's obviously great if you're somebody that knows the scene, that knows the other athletes, maybe even has existing connections to them, that has been to a few mountain bike events, that knows what kind of bike videos content usually flies and which doesn't. So it makes total sense, I guess, to get somebody that is in the game himself or herself. So that is, I guess, the overall setup. It's a tough one because obviously this mutual benefit of basically transferring followers from one account to the another should over time play out just naturally. I mean, he will kind of repost stuff that they did, obviously. They also might repost some of his content, especially when it's with the specific bike for it. So I think that's a given. One thing where you can certainly put some thought in, and I might even have hinted at this before, is to really understand what your brand is. Do people follow you because they like how you represent the mountain bike lifestyle? Is it more of that because they like the way your videos and images are taken? Is it more about educational stuff? Do you explain a lot what how people can get better themselves, or how the industry works, maybe even how to tackle your first event as an athlete? Or is it a mix thereof? Basically, as soon as when you understand this and really understand your own brand and what people expect from you, then maybe it becomes a bit easier to create these synergies with set content in in each of these dimensions, so to say. And then obviously, I mean, that's what you are being paid for in this gig is quality content. I mean, this goes without saying. And I think in general, people like to see brands basically authentically use their team's content, because oftentimes it is very personal compared to the more brand driven content of the brand itself. So working with reposted content from all the different team writers that you have is generally speaking probably a good idea, and then mixing and matching yourself in there once or twice certainly won't hurt. And if it doesn't basically break the concept, and if it's in line with everything else you do on this channel, then this should give some additional follows to you while also bringing some of your followers over. I don't know, guys, do you have anything in addition to that? It's not the easiest question, I guess.
No, I think like the first thing that I think about when I read your question, Marius, is like the concept of brand ambassadorship. And there are different words that have been used over the years, but the general concept is that brands usually do super well if they have faces who are tied to and represent the brand online. And you will even very often find it to be true that the people who are the faces of a given company have a larger audience than the company accounts themselves. And while brands
Basically, the
might
same thing you're seeing with football teams and Messi having a lot more followers than his respective team.
Yeah, exactly. Because especially on social media, it's just like people are relatable. It's what other people can relate to. And this effect happens essentially across the internet, right? People are bigger than brands, and more it's just natural for us to connect with people, and not so natural to connect with brands. And I think like this setup could play out to be a real win for the company if done well and if they play along. So what I would definitely be thinking about is to say, hey, look, if I have this reach, I'm also willing to be like the in-house influencer for your brand, and think a lot about how you can tie together the products of this brand with your channel. Of course, this needs to be reflected like in contractual terms. Even it should be clear that either you do it as part of the salary, maybe you can then negotiate a better deal than somebody else could, or it should maybe be something extra on top or not, but you should have definitely clarity about how you plan to intertwine the two, your identity online and the brand identity online. And then I as a brand would take the approach where I say, hey, Marius, it's okay if you spend time producing stuff for your own channels because it has the audience, and because it does well, and then just think about how to intertwine it with the brand channel. So of course, mentioning the brand, maybe if you have a link tree on that is in your Instagram bio, then maybe also place their link there and do this kind of stuff. But definitely I would not shy away from leveraging your personal reach, and I think that has the most upside, definitely. And then you can take all the tactics that you would normally do, right? You can have presenterships of different content formats. It can just be the gear, like Jonas said, that is in there, and really position yourself as like the advocate for the brand, the spokesperson to the social media community for this brand. And then of course you can leverage all the secondary effects that Jonas also alluded to. If you have like a network, if you're connected with people in the industry, it will be easier for you to reach out, and then maybe you can create cool events that people want to attend to because you have this knowledge and understanding of what are bike creators, mountain bike influencers interested in, and you can leverage all this to get more exposure for the brand you're currently talking to. So that is really
And
the
maybe, I guess, then, so what many mountain bike companies do is that they have a bunch of team riders. I mean, the ones like the big brands that are also competitive in sports. You will see, for example, Canyon have not just team riders for their mountain bike division, but they're even more specialized, but also obviously for their road racing. They're very present in terms of, you will see them at the Tour de France and stuff like this. But also smaller brands try to or tend to have like team riders. And obviously this strategy, basically everything that we just said and that Thomas just said, basically applying this across all team riders and basically doing a somewhat unified strategy in terms of how present is the brand in your personal content, and maybe finding the sweet spot there. I guess that would also be advisable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the things that I guess Marius, you know, anyways, you cannot turn your personal accounts into a full on advertising channel. Nobody would want this. But likewise, the brand accounts also cannot be pure advertising channels. They also need to have the exciting content. I mean, I'm not super deep in mountain biking, but I know gravel and road racing and what's going on there quite a bit, and it's always about providing useful content, and then basically the corporate accounts can almost become the hub where you like using reposts and all these tools on the one hand side, but also create cool stuff. I think one team that is doing a good job in road and gravel is EF Education. They have different like short form documentaries, 10-15 minute movies that are super well produced of their riders taking part, for instance, in big gravel races and in road races and stuff like this. And I think that the playbook that they use is quite smart when it comes to their uh, corporate or brand channels, even though they are of course a racing team and not a manufacturer. But I think you can still look at how they do it, how they integrate their riders into the content to really create something that is a cool channel to follow, first of all, and then second of all also leverage this to position your product. Almost think about it like owned media, what you do on social for on the brand accounts. And then the owned media means you produce quality stuff and have product placement within this owned media. And then sometimes you can have more like marketing-y, salesy stuff included in there. Ron, do you have some thoughts on intertwining a personal persona and a brand persona in a smart way?
I mean, it's just as Jonas said at the beginning, like it is kind of a tough one, but it's also kind of it's
Natural one.
difficult but simple.
Yeah,
Like it happens
exactly.
naturally, right? Like if your face is going to be on any types of videos, people are automatically going to associate you with, you know, your personal brand and with the company's brand. I guess it really depends on how prominent you will be in future communications with the brand, right? So if you're
Yeah.
doing videos where, you know, you're the talking head or you're the face, then obviously people will gravitate toward your personal brand as well. So it'll be like a funnel. Think of this brand and your management of their socials as like another arm of your funnel, right?
I mean, you know
So
that in the tech industry, they sometimes like these fancy titles. But I remember many years ago, a guy from Microsoft. I met him at a bar camp. He gave me his business card, and it said Microsoft Evangelist. I think it was for
yeah,
one specific Microsoft product. But his job and role description was really to be one of the people connecting in the communities that are relevant to that specific Microsoft product. And he did it using all the different channels. So he was not responsible for the main Microsoft social media accounts. I think we didn't even talk about social media back then, but it was Web 2.0. That was the wording back then. So again, long time ago. But it goes to the idea of how you can structure such a role within the company. And it's really about, I think the biggest asset you could bring to any brand is the established reach and the network that and the community that you already have. And that is what you should be doing along with the content production. And I think here
yeah,
the way how because you ask it in both directions, right? You're asking how can the brand benefit from your reach, but you from theirs. And I think the one thing that a brand can bring to the table is infrastructure for production. So depending on what exactly will be at your disposal, I think the content you create can maybe go up a level or two just because you can have access to more resources. At least that's what I would hope for in your position, because of course, like having a second and third camera guy with you and having access to drone shots and whatnot, all this type of thing um, can be included in bigger productions, and these can come from the brand. And then again, that helps to make more appealing content and to do stuff that really resonates in the mountain bike community, which in the end you need to address to sell more product. But that is, and I assume the company is also aware of this, social media is not primarily a sales channel, right? It's much more for brand and community building to then convert into sales.
I mean, it's a sweet deal for the brand, right? They're getting essentially a full-time influencer that also manages social media for them. It's like a 2-for-1 for them. So yeah, just I think just do what feels right. Don't let it be intrusive on the audience. Don't advertise too much, as Thomas mentioned. Don't turn your personal brand and your personal channels into a megaphone for the brand that you now work for. So that'd be my final thoughts. Jonas, anything else?
No, I just talked into the mute, but when you said the basically 2-for-1 deal, I said keep this in mind with the salary negotiations.
Yeah,
There you
definitely.
Clip this. Clip me saying that if you need some backup. Anyway, guys, is that good for
I
Marius?
think that's good.
Alrighty.
Thanks for the question, by the way.
Yeah. And we will head on over now to question 2. It is from Sammy. And here's his question, or her question. I don't know. It could be a dude, right? Or a female.
Could be.
No idea. All right. Anyway, so I run a small Substack with my mom, making up 33% of my total subscriber account. Okay.
So that makes 33%.
So he has 3
Three
subscribers,
subscribers, yes.
one of which is his mother.
Yeah.
I would like to grow my Substack, but I'm having trouble on 2 fronts. Firstly, I think I'm just not a great writer. Shit. My articles are not compelling enough, I think. How do I become a better writer? Secondly, how do I get my articles in front of people and reach more audience? Thanks and love the show. He's a writer. He mostly uses Twitter and Substack, and his genre is movie reviews and analysis. So he is a movie reviewer. That is a tough niche. There's very long and well-established review sites and reviewers that are in the movie niche, and it's very difficult to break in if you're a beginner. And he wants to start doing a premium newsletter. So,
and there are really great writers in this niche
yes.
already. So
yeah, and
Still
I feel like it's
about the 33% on my mom.
Yeah,
maybe
I think
maybe there is some writing talent. No, that sentence alone is not too bad.
Yeah, true. I mean, maybe his I don't know. I think it's a fairly moated niche. What I mean by that is it's a category in which many of the established brands or established voices in the niche have like moats set up. Do you guys know that term?
Sure.
Yeah. So for anyone listening that doesn't, it means you have like protection against outside competition, right? It's like in different niches, you can have different types of moats. For example, e-commerce, a moat could be a monopoly on supply, right? If you control the supply chain, you have the best deals with wholesalers. That would be a moat where it's difficult for competitors to enter.
So what modes do you see in movie review content creation?
That it's a fairly credibility driven industry, a niche, right? So like, are you going to trust the review of somebody who doesn't really have any followers or you don't know them very well? Are you going to trust their opinions on movies? Like, you have to establish a lot of rapport.
Credibility as a mode. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a rapport building moat in which you're going to have to hustle, grind for a lot just to be trusted by users. So it's a very difficult thing. Yeah. Anyone want to take this first?
It's really a niche where I have very little to zero competence because I usually don't check IMDb before I watch a movie. None of this. Usually I tend to go by the thumbnail, check for the 30 seconds that Netflix gives me, and then I like it or not.
Okay, well, real quick, Thomas, just let me, because he first said he thinks he's not a great writer. And secondly, he said, how do I become better? And secondly, how do I reach more people with my writing? Okay. So I just want to first touch on that. Like, I think I'm not a great writer thing. And I just want to say, for anyone who wants to become a good writer, and this probably applies to any skill, you just have to do it. You have to consume it and you have to do it, right? Consume writing, find writers that you really like their voice in the movie niche, and consume their content and start to write like them. Literally copy their reviews and deconstruct them. Copy paste their reviews and deconstruct, how they do it. Write like them. Try to echo the way they write, and that's the best way to become good. And then you will eventually find your own voice, your own type of flair and style. And I know that sounds like the most surface level, ambiguous advice, but you just have to do it, man. It's a muscle. Writing is a muscle. You have to keep doing it, and eventually people will enjoy your style and they'll follow you. And that's how you do build that rapport. That's how you get over that moat.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
one name that comes to my mind instantly is like Wesley Morris. I think he's one of the great movie writers of our time. He used to write for Grantland, and I think I don't even know. I think he went to the New Yorker. Or I might confusing the publications there, but he's really a great movie writer, and I think these are the type of people you should definitely read. And then to double down on your point, I think it's really reading also with an analytical eye, essentially. So understanding what people do when they are writing good texts. What are the mechanisms? Like, how do they create lead-ins into their stories? What do they do? I mean, one thing that became quite popular like 10 years ago is to intertwining like movie writing with like broader pop cultural references and so on. So people developed their own shtick, their own routines around doing this kind of things. There may be many different approaches, and yeah, you need to sit at the table. There's a quote I found, different attributions. The one that stuck in my mind is that Stephen King once said, well, people say the muse. So the muse needs to come for inspiration, but with me, I sit at my desk every day. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. I sit at my desk every day at 9 a.m. So at least inspiration knows where to find me. And I think that is a very good approach. You need to write regularly. And I myself, I mean, I've written for a long time, since my early school days. I enjoyed writing, and at one point I had this publication, Attention Economy, where I really tried to write like 3 pieces per week. And during this time, that was definitely the time when I was best at writing, just because I had this routine, because I really knew how to go about a topic, how to structure my text. And I think luckily a bit has stuck from these days. But it's really all about practicing by doing. And then of course there are also that you can read books about better writing, about writing technique, and it might make sense to read some of those. And there are many blogs and online articles about becoming a better writer, and there's some advice that might work for you, and there is other advice that might not work for you. So in the end, it's not like a hard science. Writing isn't, right?
But I
There are
guess, as with most other things, it works that way, that you should have some basis. So probably you should write a few articles and get them out, because only then these books and whatever uh, things you might consume on how to become a better writer, like if there's already some substance that you can tweak, it's easier than if you're starting basically with a
Blank
clean
slate.
slate,
Yeah.
and you have basically nothing to apply these lessons to. And even if you've put out a few articles,
yeah.
then yeah,
But
there's
I
just
mean,
Sammy,
something
practice
that you can
practice
relate to.
makes perfect, and
Yeah.
it's a craft, and the best way to learn is by doing. And then, of course, you can do the theory and research, but I think doing is really the first place. And there is one additional aspect that I can highly recommend. If you can find somebody who is a great editor, then working with an editor for your texts, that is really, really the best. And so now, if your Substack has 3 subscribers, you definitely don't have an editorial department. But so what would you be looking for in an editor? So of course, a person who writes, who knows how to structure a text, who also knows how to I mean to spell and the easy stuff, but spelling is not the main problem. You have a lot of AI tools, Grammarly and co for this nowadays. So it's really about like how can you create better texts? What is like the missing information that a reader can identify, and you maybe can't because you've spent so many hours writing this one review, and what are the questions that still come up? And a good editor is somebody who is not just changing your tone and rewriting the stuff for you, but who poses questions, who gives you ideas, who thinks about structure and gives you feedback, respects your voice, your tone, the idea that you have, but then comes back with feedback, a challenging question, and so on. And this doesn't need to be a trained editor. I mean, the great ones in the industry, they don't do it for free usually, but maybe somebody else who is also a writer in your niche, somebody you know who does it, and then you can maybe even compare notes. You edit one piece there, the other person edits your piece, and so on. And this is the top thing that I think you can do if you find the right person.
I think just to jump in there, like Sammy has 3 subs, right? So Sammy is, I think, months, if not years away from having an editor, like a designated person to check his stuff. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think, Sammy, you need to determine what your movie review persona will be, right? So you have the Ebert and Roperts of the world who write for movie snobs and for movie enthusiasts and for people who know what lens a movie was shot on. That's one type of persona you could write for. Is that the type of persona you want to write for? If so, getting a proper editor, having it be as snobby as possible might be the route. But do you want to write for people like yourself who might just be movie enthusiasts? I don't know. I'm assuming. Me personally, the movie reviewers that I like are not the ones who write like thought provoking and deep, like um, with colorful language. I don't give a shit. Like, if anything, the people that I actually trust are like my hometown friends. I'll go to my Instagram chat and ask my buddies what they thought about the newest Marvel movie or whatever. Like, and those are the guys that I trust because like they're most similar to me, right? So like you could essentially use your friend group as like your first quote unquote editor of
Yeah,
like
most
what
stuff.
Thomas just said. Yeah.
It's
And
also the most realistic scenario.
exactly. So, dude, like write as if you were writing to the friends in your group chat and you wanted to write a good movie review to entice them to either watch it or not watch it. And if you don't have any friends, Sammy, then you're shit out of luck. I don't know.
But if you do have friends, that's also, I guess, the part that tackles the growth section of your question. Like,
You could double your subscriber count
yeah,
today.
if you do have friends, then send them every piece that you write on your Substack and ask them if you can add them to your mailing list, because
Yeah.
really that is like a grassroots endeavor. So here you can find a starting point to get some people on there and then ask them to recommend and so on. I mean, you're just really at the starting point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
source
Find your
them
tone.
from the people you know and use this to find your tone and find out what you want to do, quite frankly, right? Do you want to focus on a genre, get an idea of the persona you want to write for? Because in the end it needs to be fun if that is this journey. And on that note, there is one thing that also stuck out to me in the question is like, I'm not a good writer, you say, you think about yourself. And that is probably a problematic mindset if you want to write. So
Do you even
it's
like
almost like,
writing?
yeah.
I know that sounds
Or
funny,
maybe
but ask yourself that.
well, maybe his thing is that he is an expert, or her is an expert on movies. Maybe in niche, as you said, Ron, with was shot on a lens like this and with this camera rig, and maybe he has a very good technical understanding. but would much rather like to publish this as a bullet point list. And maybe that is something that nobody did before, like movie reviews in bullet lists, because nobody wants to read 3-page reviews anyways. Maybe that's even an approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That could be an innovation. But
Or
but
do
I mean,
video, do YouTube.
these
Find a medium that find a medium where you could be as authentic as possible. And if you're not a good writer and you feel like you're forcing words to come out onto the page,
yeah, if
maybe
you
then
don't like
writing is
it,
not the medium.
if you don't like it, then switch medium. But let's assume the other way around. Let's assume Sammy enjoys to write, but feels I'm not a good writer. Well, that may or may not be true, and it's okay to be self-critical. But maybe you need to think a bit differently about yourself, and don't because like once you create these beliefs about yourself, these can stick, and they also influence your output. Try to switch your perspective here, and say you are a learning writer. Like, by the way, each writer is, right. Even a successful writer will tell you, hey, I think sometimes I'm shitty. And you have these self-doubts. That is true, and nobody is perfect. There will always be stuff that can be improved, but look at it like a learning journey, which the second part of the question then also does, right? You want to improve, you have this wish, so that is a good sign. But don't believe that you are bad. Believe that you are on your way to improve and to become better. And I think that can at least give you a bit more confidence in doing the stuff that you need to do now. Because if you think you're bad, then it also keeps you from doing it, because you're bad anyways. But if you're a learner, then you know you need to practice to get better, and it gets you doing, and that is the only way to achieve anything that you want, to become a better writer, to grow. If you are afraid of writing because you're not good, you will not reach any of these goals you allude to with your question.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we should probably maybe move on from the how to be a good writer. I think those are all good points. And I think to connect it now to the next part of like how to increase reach and audience. Again, it sounds boring, but the more you create and the more you share your stuff and publish it, simple sharing on your social channels, on other types of like movie forum sites. There's a site called Letterboxd. It's basically a site where you can add like movies that you've seen to your profile, and then you can add reviews to them. It's a very up and coming movie review site. Make sure you have a profile there and that you're creating, you're creating reviews as often as possible on movies that you've seen. It's a good way to get found, right? So that's like a reach increasing activity that you could do. But at the end of the day, continue to produce on the already popular movie review sites. Try to submit. I couldn't fucking tell you how that process works. Like if you wanted to submit a review on IMDb, can you just register an account? If so, make sure you're doing that. I don't know if there's any type of gatekeeping that goes on maybe the more premium review sites. I imagine there are. Especially when you talk about publications like New York Times. I know they have like a review
Yeah,
section. I'm pretty sure you can't
you can.
just
No, you
yeah.
can't.
So the more premium or the more exclusive it is, the less likely you'll be able to get your reviews there. But any ones that are free, open submissions, do it, submit them. Hopefully you get maybe even the gated ones, you get some feedback from some of the editors or some of the people that manage these things. They'll tell you, nope, sorry, this is dog shit, or hey, this is almost there but not quite, and that'll give you a good odometer of how you're improving. So just keep getting your stuff out there. The more you publish, the more people you'll reach. That's just the name of the game. Content creation and the creator economy is all about it's mostly a volume game. When you're at the beginning, you just want to keep pumping content out as much as possible, and at the highest quality as possible.
And Ron, one more thing, because I guess you're super right, and I even wonder if Substack is the right place to be for the time being for you, because I
Maybe not
assume
yet.
you don't have unlimited time to create content. And maybe to build your own audience, the best way initially is to find movie review sites and blogs, as Ron said, and they reach out to the editors and just ask. I mean, you're writing for free anyways on your Substack right now, so ask them if you can publish on their site sometimes, and some will be open to having you there as a contributing writer. And maybe you will not get paid, but you're not anyways. Maybe you even get paid, even better. But do this, and make a deal that you have a byline. Ideally, in your byline, you also have a link to your Twitter or Instagram or whatever is the most important social account you want to use for these purposes, and then build your own audience there. And and that helps you to find readers, to get a few people more that are not your mom and maybe not from your inner friend circle. And if you've done this and you have a few published articles and you also have just learned a bit more about what works, what doesn't work, then you're probably at the point that you can think about Substack and
Yeah.
doing your solo endeavor, because building this from scratch without any audience as a basis just super super tough. And so maybe rethink your approach to publishing.
You go for reach at the beginning. Keep everything as public and as accessible as possible. Create the premium stuff down the line for sure. I think a cool little growth hack that I just thought of is YouTube, right? So like when movies release new trailers, the YouTube comment sections like a pretty fantastic place to get your thoughts about a movie, right? And I tend to go to a trailer on YouTube to watch it before I watch the movie, and I want to see what people say in the YouTube comments. Like if they say, "Hey, I saw this. I just came back from the theaters tonight. I just watched this. It was pretty good, but it was blah blah blah." Like that'll impact if I want to go see it. And if you could create a YouTube account and give it like a funny name where it's like um, I don't know, the YouTube comments movie reviewer guy, like something blatantly dumb or blatantly silly or obvious, and then add like a thoughtful, insightful, review essentially to the thing, and then I don't know, people might click on your profile from there and go down the rabbit hole and find your legit, movie review, your long form stuff. Could be a cool thing. Take that idea and apply it to all these other places where people go to get movie reviews, right? So just you just need to be present. You need to like I used to write about like the like marketing and growth and stuff, and I used to always refer to this thing called the watering hole. It's essentially the idea that on the savannah in Africa, all the animals come to the watering hole to get water. It's like a congregation spot, and you as a brand, you want to think of yourself like a lion or maybe the alligator in the watering hole, and you want to catch. If you want to catch prey, you need to be present. You need to be at the watering hole. You need to be prowling and looking for the users, as they're there drinking water. So where do they spend their time? Where is that watering hole for that persona that you want to speak to? And then you need to join the conversation. Draw stripes on yourself, make yourself a part of the conversation somehow, and just find the watering holes and make sure you're present there and you're joining the conversation.
Hey Sammy, good luck on your journey.
Yeah, good luck, Sammy.
Hey, and to drop in, I think I have a good segue to a little plug Unyfy. So if you, Sammy, if you made it and you have built your audience and you have readers, then is the right time to jump on Unyfy and start your own platform with a lot of options to publish premium content, with a lot of options to interact with your community, because that is really what we are solving for with Unyfy, giving creators like yourself the best toolkit to convert their audience from social media on their own platform and there build your independent digital business. And on that note, if you haven't tried it yet and you are a creator with an established audience, then we would be ever so excited if you would give it a try. Jump on Unyfy, that's Unyfy with 2 Ys, unyfy.io, and test it, give it a try. All the plans we have come with a 30-day free trial, so you can check out what we are doing with Unyfy and how we help it, because that helps us to produce more of these podcast episodes and to help the creator economy at large.
That's right. All righty, guys. Sammy, good luck. Let's head on over now to question 3.
Katherine,
yes.
what Katherine got in store for us?
So Katherine says, it's a little bit off topic, but I'm an agency owner providing copywriting services to e-commerce brands. I love your insights on growth, so I figured I would shoot my shot here. I was curious how I can properly scale my business without burning out. There are only so many hours in a day. I'm stuck with 3-ish clients and unable to take on more work. She's an agency owner. She usually uses LinkedIn, and e-commerce is her main topics and genres. Those are the types of companies that she helps, and she's a service provider. So this is a little bit, there's some overlap, I would say. she's at the end of the day a creator. She just services different brands. So, Katherine, I'm going to go ahead and take this first. And I think I separated this into two different boxes or two different groups. And the first one is, if you want to stay as a solo service provider, my main recommendation is to try to win back some of your time. Try to automate, leverage technology the best you can, to win back some time, because time is the resource in which you are trading for revenue, right? For money. And with that said, a couple of tools that I think you can implement today, literally day one, to help yourself is, number one, some type of AI content writing tool. And take this with a grain of salt. When you use AI writing tools and content tools, um, make sure that it's really just like for that first run, that first draft. And then you want to really put your spin on it, put your skills, put your, like, for example, if you're writing a simple blog post about, um, I don't know, a product, and you want to teach the user how to use it, you can ask ChatGPT to write that boring how-to part, and then you give it a nice, colorful introduction to grab the reader, right? Intros are what matter. That's what's going to grab a reader. Make sure that's you doing that. So that's one way you can use ChatGPT. You can also use ChatGPT to help you with like titles, meta descriptions, basically, at every part of the content creation process. You can essentially utilize ChatGPT. You just give it enough instruction, tell it what you need, and it should be able to help you out. Just
Also,
yeah.
there are various different tools that allow you to first upload content that you have written already and adapt the new output to your personal style. So to analyze which phrases, words do you use regularly, so on and so forth. Me personally, I haven't tried out one of these things myself yet, where it would first analyze my style and then do something in the same voice. But I've seen several threads on Twitter where people were quite satisfied with it. And maybe then that's even more than just a first draft, but then it's maybe half finished already, and you just need to apply some touches as you wish. But yeah, I think the tooling around copywriting work has become so incredibly good just over these last few months since ChatGPT was first released. Also, if you haven't done so already, spend the $20, get the plus update to access GPT-4. I don't know if it's public by now, to be honest. But that's a huge step already. And yeah, as Ron said, in the end, it's about winning time back.
Yeah.
And maybe just go through your daily routines and check which of these tasks can I maybe either outsource. Doesn't necessarily need to be an employee, can also be people on Fiverr or anything the like. And yeah, just try to get some
Yeah.
time back.
Hey, and if you
Yeah.
want to learn more about how to really use AI to full effect, you can jump on episode number 5, where we really talked in depth about AI.
Definitely. Yeah. So you want to, like I said, you want to win back time. That, and in addition to not only helping you with the actual service fulfillment, right? So you're providing copywriting services, but you can also use it with your own work. So project management. Make sure you're using some type of tool. You can use Trello. I think they have a free plan. There's tons of, you can even use like some of the free stuff that comes with like Microsoft, right? I'm sure Microsoft has cool task planning and task management. Just make sure you're doing something. There's tons of productivity resources out there to help you be more productive and save time and stay on task. So leverage that. So that's
Let me throw in a tool
yeah,
recommendation. So I'm a big fan, as you two guys know, of Notion.so. They are a notebook, but they also, like, it's not like just a plain notebook. They also allow you to embed a lot of stuff, like, for instance, boards with Kanban or project management lists. And they also have like AI. Now, if you want the one-stop shop for all your copywriting tasks, maybe Notion is a good idea, because you have just
good
one
point.
environment where you can write with a very good text editor. You have project management tools at your hand, and on top, you can you can work with AI. So
Yeah.
And it's it has very good collaborative features by now. So it's basically a mix also of Google Docs, where you can invite other people, or maybe even your client,
clients.
to see the first draft already. You can even publish articles entirely. So basically, share a link, everybody can see it.
Yeah.
Also, great Notion fan. I would double down on this one as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So that's if you want to stay solo. If you want to just continue being what I would call a freelancer. You know, you offer a service and you do it all yourself, all the profit. It's all in your pocket. You just have to pay for those tools, right? And then you kind of have this hybrid approach where you do most of the work, but maybe you contract out, like Jonas said, some of the more remedial tasks, some of the more data entry management type tasks. You can get yourself a virtual assistant or some type of data entry assistant that'll help you with that. And then you have the other end of the spectrum. If you want to approach this service like a business and maybe transition to be more like an agency, right? Then you can essentially contract out services and parts of the business or parts of the fulfillment one by one until you're not doing anything else, right? So like find the things that you're most comfortable contracting out or delegating to someone else, to a freelancer, and do that. And you can keep testing with contract employees or with freelancers on Fiverr, on Upwork, and all these sites. And then eventually, if you continue scaling, once you could win back more time and you can scale more and get more clients, you might be able to hire a full-time employee. Um, you can then outsource the sales cycle, where you're also having people do sales for you and close for you, and then it becomes a legitimate business, right? Maybe you guys can comment more on that if you want. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
I do.
too. Yeah, go ahead,
No,
Thomas.
I
You
do
guys are
want. I
the.
mean, I mean, Catherine, in the mail already alludes to she wants to scale, and
Yeah.
she wants to grow the business. She says she's like an agency owner. So if you really want to do it as an agency, so you don't mention any employees and 3-ish clients. So let's assume you're right. Currently, it's mostly a freelance business. But if you want to
And it seems sales is not the problem when she says she has 3-ish clients and can't take on more. So it seems like she could have more.
Oh, yeah, I
If she
didn't
would.
read it this way, but if you're right, but it goes to the first point I wanted to make. Like, if you want to build it like an agency, and then as the owner, first really understand what you are best at and how you personally can provide the most value to the business. Are you a great copywriter? Should you be in like an agency with a bunch of teams? Should you be like the creative director and the lead copywriter? Then you need to build the structure around you, that all the points where you are not great, which then maybe is sales, maybe you are not great at sales, then you need to complement this. For instance, one way how you could go, I receive tons of emails every week from B2B email outreach companies. They have very different price points, but some start very affordable. They have long email lists, or they do LinkedIn cold outreach to offer services. So that could be one option to get more clients in your pipeline. If, however, you are great at sales because you have a good network, it's easy for you to make the sale. And actually, the copywriting part is the thing where you are not the most keen on, then find employees or people you outsource it to, or AI tools, or a combination of all those to do this. But really focus on the part where you can provide the most value to the business, and then complement this in the other spots with the stuff that needs to be done. Of course, finding clients really critical to scaling. So you need to do this, and then also, what do you need to ensure that quality is delivered to the clients, and all the options that you mentioned apply. And then the time management part in your question, I think Ron gave great advice on like the tooling side. I would on a more basic level, like, think how much you need to do. I used to work in and run a small consulting boutique with depending, sometimes it were 5, sometimes 15 people, but in this, you cannot calculate in a way, and you cannot structure your time in a way that you assume you are working 4 client projects, 5 days a week, 10 hours per day, or even 7 days a week or whatever. But you need to calculate that you need to put at least 20 to 25% of your time in customer acquisition, then another chunk of time in the administrative part that comes with your business, and then the rest of your time you can put in actual operations of this work. And that impacts everything from your pricing, how you structure your days and your calendar, to what you prioritize. And you need to be very clear about this. So no business without allocating enough time to customer acquisition. And there, find the strategy that works best for you, depending on if you have like if you are a LinkedIn influencer already with great B2B contacts, you focus on sales, get some people for the copywriting, you can do final revision or something like this.
Yeah, there also are white label copywriting services where you can essentially get a company that does all of the fulfillment for you, and they white label it and cuts into your profits, obvious in your margins, but it allows you just to focus on getting clients.
Yeah.
And once after the onboarding process, it's out of your hands. All the fulfillment happens from someone else. There's usually a project manager that they also supply to do it all. So that's maybe what I would start to think of if I were you. Again, it's like what Thomas said.
Find
If
your
the
core
copywriting,
competency.
yeah, if the copywriting, like you're a world-renowned copywriter and just your words flow like a waterfall in Austria, then maybe you don't want to
Good
white
save.
label, in the
Yeah.
Swiss Alps, specifically the Swiss Alps, not the Austrian Alps.
The Swiss Alps in Austria.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that's an option for you. Maybe look into that. That's a pretty nice way to scale. If you could somehow create some type of system where you don't have to worry about fulfillment, which typically is probably the most headache inducing part of it all. Thomas, you worked in consulting. Imagine how nice your life would have been if all you had to focus on was getting clients, but the actual consulting part or the service part was not needed. How nice would that have been?
To me, not that nice. But so again, that is why finding understanding what your core competency is and where you provide the most value. If you are just a great salesperson, then it is a great option and you should do this. If you're a great copywriter, then of course that is what can set you apart in the market, and then you need to outsource the entire sales stuff.
Yeah.
And then the combination of like cold outreach, I think, especially because what you would be targeting is not like the large corporations of the world, right? Like if you're a small copywriting shop, you want local businesses and small SME type of clients. And I think there, like automated cold outreach from these email outreach providers could also be a great option to get people in the pipeline, and then have a smart process to convert like initial interest into leads. Many of these companies also help you with this, like probably have a free sample initially that you provide them, have like a little thing that you offer at a very fair price point, and use a good infrastructure from Calendly meeting, half an hour briefing. You provide this very cheap first work sample, and then you can take on the bigger projects. You could build something like this, and the agency helps you to scale it.
I very much like the focus in a first step on local companies as well, because when I receive cold emails,
It's e-commerce though.
and they, yeah, but still,
You you don't have to go local physically and regional. You can just go small sales volume.
yeah, but still, when I receive a cold email that starts with, "Hey, I saw blah blah blah, your company is doing this and that, and you're in Innsbruck, I'm in Munich," then I tend to read or pay more attention to
Yeah,
the email,
true.
because I have something to relate to already.
Yeah.
Because I get the amount of cold emails I get for hiring developers, development services, getting clients, all of this, it's ridiculous. So basically, if there's a small hook, and even just being in the same city, it sometimes does a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think that's a nice like hack. But yeah, just to comment, it is e-commerce, so don't feel like you're restricted by region, right? By
Yeah, of
location.
course.
Like you could you're pretty lucky to be able to go anywhere digital. You know, anyone that uses digital that sells online. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else to add?
No, I think we're good.
Think so too.
Agreed. I wanted to say one more thing for you, Katherine. Look up a site called Design Joy. I don't know if it's .com or .co. I can't remember, but it's essentially this dude who is a graphic designer. He was a UI UX designer for a long time, working in, you know, for a corporate company or whatever. He was kind of one of the first guys to start an agency where he called it like design as a service or productized services, where basically he has like a monthly retainer plan where you get unlimited graphic design work. He started off, he was charging like $1,500 a month, and you get unlimited revisions. He uses Trello to manage tasks. Each client can only have one open current task. So if they need a logo, if they need whatever they need, and he has like a 1-day fulfillment. It used to be 3, it's now down to like a day. And he was making like 90 or 100K per month of revenue as a solo, you know, agency owner, as a productized service owner. And he's since scaled down, and he made it really nice where his service packages are nice and productized, for lack of a better word. And maybe that's something you could do. You offer like 3 different copywriting packages, a very easy booking process. I know his thoughts or something that he says very clearly on his websites, like, we never do calls. We never do customer support calls or anything like that. Everything is done digitally on Trello or Slack. And that could be a cool thing where you can maybe, reduce the customer service part of things if that's what's really weighing you down. All right. Anything else?
Really cool. Looks good. It's Design Joy CO.
Yeah. Check that out. And if nobody has anything else, we'll pack it up.
Let's wrap it
Shall
up.
we?
Who
Guys,
does the plug, the final plug? Ron.
final plug, guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you are here with us, please give this podcast a like, a share, a subscribe, a rating. If you can, give it a rating. That really helps. If you are watching this on YouTube, give it a like, give us a sub. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really makes me happy to see our sub count go up. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having us, Ron, as always.